All right, so we are on to this is actually a top 32 or top 16. I don't really know what you want to call it, but it's the losers bracket, basically the first round of the losers bracket. And interestingly enough, we have Team Aretuza's Gvuardya versus Cephalopod. So this is a hell of a matchup, one hell of a game. Pretty excited to see who's going to get the better of the other in this game. I personally have my money on Gvuardya going pretty far in this tournament, so good to see him make top cut. But myself and Boulevard did both think that Cephalopod would also do well, so it's going to come down to this game right here to see who is going to be able to continue their tournament life. So without further ado, Gvuardya versus Cephalopod. And here we go, guys. Game one, Gvuardya versus Cephalopod. Let's go.
All right, going to start off with the elites. So this is a deck that we knew was popular in the tournament, but I don't think we've actually gotten to cast just yet.
No, absolutely not. So God, am I excited. Maybe Cephalopod was like, I'm gonna give these casters a special treat. I'm gonna not ban the elites for them. So thank you, Cephalopod, for going up against the original deck here. So not necessarily, I say original, like, we all know this deck existed since like the beginning of the game, but nobody's actually brought it this far in a tournament. So it's good to see it do this well.
It's been popping up again lately. My kind of working theory on why we're seeing this again is, one, the War Chef nerf, and this is a deck that doesn't really play War Chef, but two, with Ezreal falling off, Piltover and Zaun was probably the least played region this weekend, and that means that Mystic Shot, the premier 2 damage removal spell, is out of the format, and that means that things like Battlesmith actually live a lot longer than they used to.
Yeah, Battlesmith, man. I've always wanted that card to be good. Like every single time I look at Demacia, I'm like, I could use this card, right? Like it'll do a lot. All my elites get buffed, right? Oh, never mind. I'm just gonna go the route of scouts. Forget this.
But doesn't have the Battlesmith on the side of Gvuardya, or at least not willing to play it into the... No, there's nothing that your opponent could have had on turn 3 to remove it. Or turn 2, rather. No Avalanche available. It does have that card critically, so if the Battlesmith does come down a little bit later, we could see that one fired off, but Cephalopod gets that bread and butter sort of wording stone into the Trundle, and that's something that's difficult for Demacia to deal with. There's not a whole lot of removal in this deck. We're only seeing single combats. We're not seeing concerted strikes, so taking out some of the larger units can be a bit of an issue.
Wording stones into Trundle is difficult for every deck to deal with. This is one of the reasons why this deck even exists. It's one of the reasons why people are so high on Trundle, because being able to get Trundle down on essentially turn 4 is so debilitating for your opponent. If we look here at the board, Cephalopod's going to be able to get this attack through with the Trundle. And if it does get, I highly doubt Gvuardya's going to block, because he wants to keep his board as wide as possible, which means this is going to be 4 damage to the face of Gvuardya. So we will see what Cephalopod decides to do and whether or not Gvuardya will send a block in here.
Yeah, there's no copies of Riposte in this deck, so you are safe to attack with this Trundle. I mean, double Pale Cascade onto one of these Cythrias would actually kill it, and there's nothing in Cephalopod's hand to save him from that, but then you kind of just, you take turn 6 off, you eat a little bit of damage, maybe you throw out the Avalanche to clear out some of your opponent's board, and then you get to rekindle the Trundle.
Rekindle the Trundle. The way it just sounded so beautiful saying it like that, even though it is actually Rekindler. Rekindle the Trundle. And wow, okay, actually going to offer up the block here, too, with the Cythria. Okay, does have the Redeemer, so is going to have plenty of refuel on the side of Gvuardya to really just start to go wide and build a big, beefy board. So curious to see how big and wide this elite deck is going to go.
I never noticed up until now. I remember when we first started casting together, one of the things that we struggled with a lot was remembering the names of all the Vanguards.
Yeah, yep.
So we are going to be put to the test here. But one thing I did want to touch on is actually no Vanguard Squire out of Gvuardya. The sort of third Cythria that everyone forgets about costs 1 less every time you play an elite. That's pretty standard in the elite decks, actually, and has cut it from the list here.
I'm not crazy about that card, because it doesn't actually do anything.
I mean, it helps you go wide in the early game to out-aggro things like this War Mother's control. The kind of awkward part is you don't have Bannerman in this deck for whatever reason, just deciding that that's not the strategy that you want to go for. It's not an elite. It doesn't play into the For the Fallen strategy, so we're just going to ignore it. And that does mean that your boards are not going to be as wide. And, I mean, Gvuardya getting the pressure on pretty early. Cephalopod's got a lot of healing available in this deck, so it might look like a little bit more dire of a situation than it is, but there are 3 relentless pursuits in Gvuardya's deck that Cephalopod could get caught off guard by and end up dying pretty early.
Wait. Are you saying Gvuardya's not playing Vanguard Bannerman?
He is not.
It looks like there's 3.
Oh, is there? Oh, we put those in instead of the Squires. Never mind.
Switched them on you. He switched them.
Most people don't play the Bannerman, which always confused me. So good on Gvuardya to actually bust that one back out. I don't think it's a stretch to say he's the only elite player in top 32, but I'm not honestly sure on that.
It's probably the only elite because it's actually the only elite we saw during day 1 and day 2 as well. But
right, is Bannerman's an elite, right?
Bannerman is an elite, yeah.
Why are these players not playing it? Have I just been misreading every deck list and Bannerman's been in every elite deck? This seems so wild to me if they're not playing it.
Yeah, it seems wild to me if they're not.
Maybe the websites have been like bugging and they're showing me Vanguard Squire instead of Vanguard Bannerman, just playing tricks on my old boomer eyes.
The only one that's not elite is Swiftwing Lancer, but it gets an elite. Or well,
yeah,
that
but they don't play that
which Battlesmith I feel like should be an elite, but that's another discussion.
Well, I don't.
So
this is a pretty mediocre Avalanche, to be honest. It does set up into a pretty good Withering Wail, but we had mentioned that you're kind of going to have to open the turn with the Withering Wail at that point, because if your opponent does go for a Bannerman as their first priority sequence after you either pass or play your Rekindler, all of a sudden that Withering Wail's off the table, and I think that's what Cephalopod's kind of agonizing over here.
Yeah, we'll see if we do see the Avalanche. It looks like it's really hard. It's really hard to convince yourself to play an Avalanche when you're like, oh, I'm paying 4 mana to kill 1 unit. Like, do I really want to do that? And looks like Cephalopod's going to answer that question with a hard no. But we are going to see the Trundle leveled up. Oh man! All right, so big big Trundle level up here. God,
big Trundle.
Yeah, English is hard, guys. English is hard. So hey. We always talk about for Demacia getting value. Well, guess what deck it actually gets value in? This deck. So I'm very excited to see some big old for Demacias get ripped here.
And I think this Ice Pillar is the main reason that Cephalopod didn't go for the Avalanche. As I had mentioned, if you want to play around the Bannerman, you have to then open the turn with the Withering Wail, and that means you don't actually have a chance to get the Ice Pillar down, level your Trundle. And I do think that this Ice Pillar is going to go a long way in starting to pick apart the board of Gvuardya. And if he can actually get this Trundle to die before a Tryndamere enters the death pool, this Rekindler can come in really big. Getting down 2 Ice Pillars gives you a great chance at starting to really control the board.
We'll see if Tryndamere does drop here. I mean, the fact that we're already on turn 8 on the side of Cephalopod and like Gvuardya's wide. Gvuardya definitely has a big attack turn next turn, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. I mean, Cephalopod's still sitting at 11. He'd have to basically open up with 4 Demacia, then attack with Cithria. I mean, Cephalopod can't really remove much of what's on Gvuardya's field. Again, the Avalanche doesn't really do anything. If you try to do Avalanche and Withering Wail, you get a little bit more done, but that's a big mana commitment. So
I actually really like playing Tryndamere here, because you either get to kill 2 units on your opponent's side of the field, or you get to win with Atrocity next turn.
Yeah, it looks like Cephalopod's going to go ahead and agree with you, too. Atrocity, love to see Atrocity in these War Mother decks now, because they do exactly this. It kind of gives you that late game out. If you're not really getting War Mother's Call, you can just rely on something like Tryndamere Atrocity, or I was gonna say Battle Fury Atrocity, but you can't even. Just 1 mana short of being able to play that. That would be amazing.
That would be a little bit too amazing. I'm pretty glad that my opponent can't Battle Rage and Atrocity me all in the same turn. Yeah. All of a sudden, Troll Aggro would actually be a deck.
So, gonna pull the Vanguard Redeemer here, going in with the Trundle as well.
So you actually liked attacking the unit with the Trundle, and then even offering up my Tryndamere as sacrifice if we do, if you want to block it with the Cithria or play a Pale Cascade onto something else, because it just does give me that extra 1 damage onto the Tryndamere. And here we could see a Pale Cascade with the Cithria to trade onto the Trundle. Not going to be the case, it looks like. And yeah, this does put us just 1 mana shy, or 1 damage shy of actually winning the game with the Atrocity. And if the Tryndamere had died, granted, wouldn't have been the case, as it would have been the Cithria blocking it, then, we could have gone for that. Does Cephalopod play Unspeakable Horror?
Cephalopod does play Unspeakable Horror. So 3 of, actually, too. So we could see a top deck into that for also lethal. Another great added benefit of that Unspeakable Horror in comparison to Vile Feast. But Cephalopod actually, Maxing out on both. 3 Vile Feast, 3 Unspeakable Horror, just going all in on those. And nope, going to be a Catalyst of Aeons instead.
And I think Cephalopod's in a great position. He has gotten Gvuardya's board down to just 2 units outside the Cythria. That is not what you want to see as your opponent playing a lot of small guys. You are still in range of double Relentless Pursuit, and you are just outside of that Atrocity range, granted. And this feels so awkward, where you have the Avalanche, and your opponent has 2 health units, but guess what, buddy? Those are tough, and it is not going to work out there, as nice as this would look. And that even means that he can't go for an Avalanche into a Withering Wail when the Cythria attacks. It's just not going to work. This tough 2/2 it feels like such an awkward card. And then you try to remove it, and you just can't do it.
Yeah, feels really bad seeing all the numbers line up, and it just doesn't work. Freaking tough, man. Tough, such a good card mechanic. I mean, you see it all the time being so useful on Radiant Guardian, just making trades so awkward with so many cards in the game. And Cephalopod having a hard time kind of figuring out what he wants to do next here, too, as we go through. Kind of his...
Chat's calling out Vile Feast onto the Tryndamere. You can also just block with the Tryndamere.
Yeah, that's... Yeah.
Any way that it dies. I don't think Gvuardya has any healing in this deck.
Okay, so...
That would be wild, right? Like, where would you even get that from?
No, I'm pretty sure Gvuardya doesn't have healing.
Oh, hold on. Wait, there is Hush in the deck. There is Hush in the deck. So if you go to Vile Feast your own Tryndamere and you get Hushed, you're going to feel goofy.
Now, isn't there... There's only 1 copy of Hush, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So only 1 copy of Hush.
It is scary, though.
We see the Bannerman come down. The only... Man, I really wanted to see 4 Demacia be a thing, and it's so awkward when you're playing a little bit behind like Gvuardya is, or just trying to redevelop your board, and that's your priority. You won't actually be able to get that 4 Demacia off in an opportune time, which just feels kind of bad on the side of Gvuardya, but we do still have Relentless Pursuit mana open, and I imagine we're going to see the Cythria pull the pillar here. Yep, and that way she guaranteed gets a second attack in if we do see Relentless Pursuit come out.
So this is really scary for Cephalopod. I think he's got the game no matter what, just because Gvuardya only has 3 mana, and I think you only lose to Hush and Relentless Pursuit. There's no riposte, as we had mentioned, so there's not going to be any kind of surprise lethal out of Gvuardya with these 2 units that are unblocked. You could even throw... No, you can't throw the Warding Stone out in front because it doesn't have that.
It's so
3 attack breakpoint for the fearsome blockers.
It's so crazy to me that like I think Cephalopod's been sitting on Avalanche and Withering Wail like most of the game. It's so crazy to me these cards are actually useless in a matchup where his opponent is going wide. Like he actually hasn't been able to play these because they don't do anything.
So he does have the Tryndamere lethal now. If we had seen Hush onto the Tryndamere, then I'm pretty sure Cephalopod just won with the Trundle attack into the Atrocity next turn, but does now have it. However, Cephalopod is a player that we have seen play with his food a lot. He definitely falls prey to the potential of cards that do not exist, and he actually is just going to straightforward go for the Atrocity. That's actually a little uncharacteristic of what we've seen from him in the past.
Yeah, I got to agree. And we've talked about players doing that before as well. Where it's like, no. I know my opponent somehow has a reduced cost deny in their hand for 3 mana. Don't know how, but it's in there. So I got to play around it. So we are going to see Cephalopod take down the Elite deck. And I imagine we're going to see the Elites again on this side of Gvuardya, which disappointing, man. You know, I wanted to see this Elite deck throughout the tournament since we first saw that Gvuardya was playing it. And unfortunately, losing to something like War Mothers, not really giving me the greatest outlook on this Elite deck being a great deck.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's better than Scouts, and I think a lot of players have kind of made that adaptation. Just, you want to cut War Chef for a different 2-drop, let's look at Battlesmith. All right, what does an Elite deck look like? Doesn't feel that bad. I'm not sure they need to go all in on Elites like they are, but I mean, you really want to feel that for the Fallen since it does only get the cost reduction when it's in your hand. And we haven't seen that card come up yet. And I feel like the control matchups are where that should be shining when your opponent's clearing out your board all at once. So it is a little unfortunate to fall to the War Mothers deck without getting to see that card in action. But we've got another control-ish style deck here in the Lux Aesol. Maybe we'll get to see a big for the Fallen.
Well, so it's interesting, though, because we just saw in that matchup, like, did Cephalopod actually remove Gvuardya's field? Like, all these removal spells couldn't actually be used.
War Mothers used to be a really control-heavy deck. Now it feels like I just throw out Overwhelm units into Atrocity.
like, I just have bigger units than yours, so screw these spells. I'm just going to play Trundle and win.
Yeah, somehow Trundle turned into just, oh yeah, here's my like 5 mana 10/7 regen with Oak. Well, especially because in the War Mother's deck, because you are playing, any additional copies of Trundle will turn into Icequake. That's an 8 mana spell. You have Tryndamere, War Mother's Call, Ruination. Those Trundles are usually gaining 4 to 5 attack.
Yeah, Trundle, man, Trundle is a big boy. He gets pretty high attack pretty quick. It gets out of hand. But Cephalopod here with this Lux Aurelian Soul has the Spacey Sketcher down pretty early.
I liked the Spacey Sketcher attack. It's just cheeky enough to work, and what's the worst case? You get 1 damage on your opponent?
I don't know. Wait, you're really going to attack with the Spacey Sketcher there?
Yeah, I mean, my opponent has 1 mana. I have Pale Cascade. What else am I going to do?
No.
I'll trade my Pale Cascade for one of these units. My opponent's playing a Vanguard Bannerman deck. What else am I going to do with this Spacey Sketcher? It's not killing anything.
I don't know.
I think the concern was you don't want to give your opponent the information that you have Pale Cascade if they actually choose not to block, and trading the 1 damage for the information might not be worth it since you do kind of want to blow them out with that, but there's always this awkward question of how much is information worth?
Well, we do see Gvuardya slowly building up the field here. Going to push theoretically 4 damage unless Cephalopod decides to throw a block in. These Vanguard defenders, I really think are underrated with this tough attribute. Again, so good on Radiant Guardian. Why isn't it good on a 2-drop? Well, it is. These bad boys stick around for quite some time, as we just saw in the last game with Cephalopod having to hold on to an Avalanche basically the entire game. So, but now, is that the Pale Cascade that just came out? Yeah, so
yeah.
There we go. Now the Pale Cascade comes out in response to a block.
The resilience of these units to Avalanche, I think, is a large portion of what helped push elites into the meta, especially the tournament meta. I know that they've picked up a little bit of resurgence on ladder, but in tournaments specifically, when you're looking at sort of what you expect a lineup to be, based on the 3 most popular decks, it's probably going to be something like Lux Asol, TF Swain, and then either War Mothers or Endor. So knowing that War Mothers is a really popular deck, knowing that these Swain TF, of course, running Death's Hand, just all the 2 damage removal in the game just can't get through these, and it's nice to have that extra resilience in the matchups where your Battlesmith is a little more likely to die.
Oh. And Silverwing Vanguard going to come down. Not a card name that I am used to saying very often. We'll see if it's able to make an impact here. Looks like it will be able to challenge a couple... I don't know. Everything's pretty tiny on the board of Cephalopod right now, so it seems like pretty suboptimal trades. But we might see Gvuardya follow up with a Bannerman or some other way to buff these bad boys up.
Goes for the Meteor Shower. Going to go for that immediate value. I liked the Warrior as well. Gets a little bit more... I mean, the Warrior probably only going to kill 2 units as well. This one is a little dicey if your opponent opens with a Bannerman or goes for something like a...
Wow.
Ooh.
Oh, wait. No, okay. I don't know why for a split second I thought Meteor Shower actually deals 5 damage. And,
oh, no. I was going to say Ranger's Resolve also stops the Meteor Shower, but then a Garen came down into a Comet, and I got a little excited.
Yeah. So that is going to be really bad news for Gvuardya, not being able to get that Garen to stick around. Also... very crucially, used all his development mana for additional units on just that 1 Garen. So, gonna feel really bad. And I don't know, it feels like he was trying to maybe just develop an even wider board before playing a Bannerman. Like he had it in hand, but opted to try to buff up the Garen as well.
That's possible. I mean, Garen being at a 5/5 does mean that he's going to die to Concerted Strike, a single Concerted Strike on 1 unit or a single combat out of a Radiant Guardian. And that's not a space that you really want to be playing in.
Yeah, I got to agree. So I think you kind of need Garen to be up to a 6/6 in this matchup. So I don't hate that play if that is indeed what Gvuardya was going for here. But now we got Lux. Lux could come online here. Could also see Meteor Shower just clear out 2 units. But Cephalopod playing it nice and slow. Gonna wait to see what Gvuardya plays. Cythria, that's a card. So lots of big units starting to come out from Gvuardya. Will Cephalopod be able to deal with this one? And the answer for now anyways is not yet. What? Not yet.
Not
yet.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hey, man,
yeah,
I got to
yet.
fill space with words sometimes, and that's what came out was not yet.
So the Meteor Shower, it looks like it's lined up onto both Silverwing Vanguards, not actually electing to take out the tough unit. I mean, if we do see a Ranger's Resolve here, it does still kill one of these Vanguard Silverwings, so going to feel pretty good about that. But, I mean, Cephalopod's board is really weak to this Cythria at the moment. Not electing to play the Lux, a little bit worried about I mean, I guess just the state of your opponent attacking you next turn, where you don't really want to throw the Lux in front of either of these units. It's probably even going to get challenged by one of the Silver Wings. You don't really have a great blocker for the other units. You're going to take a little bit more damage. Not a significant portion of damage going to be pushed onto the Cythria. She would still be alive at 5, and you only have a 4 damage spell in the Meteor Strike. Kind of depends on how the Lux lasers would play out, but I think he just wasn't super happy with the lines that he had, especially since he doesn't actually have a great way to get a laser down at present. It would have had to have been the Meteor Shower and the single combat, given the mana he would have had next turn, and there's not a great single combat lined up on this board.
No, definitely not. Cephalopod has a bunch of rinky-dink units on the board. They're not really going to do much for him right now. But on the flip side, the attack token's going back over to Gvuardya, so this might be a pretty good turn for Gvuardya to be able to develop into this Cythria attack, giving everything fearsome. And
ooh,
oh
here we
my
go.
god,
Fallen.
that's
pretty impactful. Getting two 3/3s here.
Whoever thought elites was bad. Well, here's your 2 mana summon a crap ton of elites. Okay, only 2.
I think it was gonna fill the board. This isn't the Heroine.
I don't know. I was just expecting so much more for some reason, and it just didn't happen. I was expecting the full board to be filled. It should definitely just automatically fill the board.
Oh, this is a pretty spooky situation for Cephalopod, especially if there's a Relentless Pursuit in Gvuardya's hand. I'm pretty sure this is just gonna be lethal.
Hey, my dude, welcome. Thank you for the raid. Hope you guys enjoyed stream as well. And we are in game 2 here of Gvuardya versus Cephalopod. This is actually the losers bracket, which I just now realized I didn't change that round there, but this is still technically top 16, just losers bracket. So
Gvuardya, has this phenomenal attack, and Cephalopod looks like he's actually just going to pass, which I do think means we're going to see Hushes come out in order to get a few more blocks down. The Vanguard Bannerman,
boy.
No Missed Allegiance this time around, and this does mean that Hushes are going to have to be coming out from Cephalopod. Can actually play 3 of them this turn, since he does have the Moon Silver. If he wants to use that on one of the last Fleeting Hushes, would feel really bad, but it looks like he's going to start off with a Hush onto the Cythria to deny the +1/+1 and fearsome to everything, or just go for the Lux.
Oh man, this is what I was hoping for with the elite deck. I just wanted to see this happen. I just wanted to see a bunch of big elites on the board, a full Bannerman board-wide buff. Like, this just feels beautiful. It feels like this is how the deck is supposed to work, but unfortunately, Cythria are going to get shut down, so it just feels way worse.
I mean, Cythria is going to get shut down, but look at Cephalopod's hand. How does he deal with this board? This is still going to be here 2 turns from now when Gvuardya gets the attack token back.
Yeah. And, I mean, we have, what are we going on? What turn? He will be able to play Lux. It'll be turn 8, but that's going to use up, if he uses all the Hush here, which it looks like he's not going to actually use all the mana, he'll be saving 5. I don't know if that means he's going to go into a Star Shaping or something here, but, yeah.
And he can play Lux this turn with the Moon Silver.
Yeah, he could also play Lux with the Moon Silver, and I think that might be what he's going for, because that at least lets him start dealing with the board.
I don't know if it does, because in order to get a Lux Laser currently, you would actually have to play a single combat, and if you throw that single combat out into something and then a Pale Cascade comes out, or if Gvuardya just plays for Demacia in response to your Lux so that you can't kill any of the units, then you could be in a really rough spot.
Blevins caught that in chat. Big Bannerman board-wide buff. That's some alliteration if I've ever heard it. There we go. I meant to do that. That was calculated, by the way. So it looks like, no, so we actually didn't get the Lux coming down, and yeah.
Was the Radiant Guardian hidden by Cephalopod's camera?
I think so.
I feel like I didn't see that card in his hand.
Yeah, it's, I think so. So I actually, a while ago when I first started streaming, people bugged me to reduce the size of my camera for exactly that reason, because you couldn't see the card all the way to the right, and,
this is, once again, kind of awkward, though. Doesn't have the mana to get down a unit and get down a Concerted Strike to actually kill the Cythria. That means that is a lethal threat on the next turn as well. This is why, let's talk about Judgment. Let's talk about the lack of Judgment in Cephalopod's deck and how good it would be right here. It would be very good. That's the end of that discussion on Judgment, and you should play it in your Lux Aethel deck. I love it very, very much.
Except the 5,000 times we've seen it be completely dead for entire games.
Look, man, you just have to accept that if you have no units, you don't get to play removal. Straight up and honest, just like Demacia.
Judgment, I really want Judgment to be good, but it's just so, like, niche scenarios where it's actually useful. It's so bad.
It's definitely a lot worse when your opponent knows you're running it.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is one of those cards on ladder that finds more success because nobody else plays it. If you're just that one guy.
So I guess the question now is, does this Radiant Guardian actually allow Cephalopod to live long enough? Because the one thing
Probably.
Cephalopod has going for him right now is Gvuardya just like can't summon more units. Now he actually will be able to, but
this is going to get a big lifesteal off, and unless Gvuardya responds with
yeah.
another Cythria, then, I mean, this Radiant Guardian is free to attack.
Oh, what do we got? Is this a
single combat?
Hush? No, single combat. He does play 3 single combat. There is a Hush. There's 2 Pale Cascade. Yeah. Wow. That is pretty big. The Cythria still dies because it will resolve with the Grizzled Ranger attacking it. So if we see another Cythria come down with this 6 mana left, that is damn near perfect for Gvuardya, and I think that's going to be the game for him next turn.
At present, Gvuardya does not have lethal. At least not with what we have on board lining up in the Cephalopod's hand, because the single combat can take out a second unit, as well as the Star Shaping to heal back up. It's looking like he's in an okay spot for the time being.
Fresh Lobster, what is up, my man? Thank you for the raid. Appreciate it. Hope you had a fantastic stream. Unfortunate, I don't think Lobster made it through the Eurasian tournament, but we will see Lobster again. Thank you very much for the raid, man. Appreciate it a lot. And oh yes, here we go. This is the For Demacia I have been waiting for.
This is what you like to see, huh? This is.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
look, you can have all the healing in the world, but if I'm clocking you for 20 in one swing, it doesn't matter. You don't have time to play the healing. You're dead to my flurry of boots stomping on the ground.
This is like all the amount of times we've talked about Judgment and For Demacia just being dead in hand. This is all culminated into this one moment of this is where we use For Demacia. It's literally only good in an elite deck. And Gvuardya gonna take it home there, winning against Cephalopod. Gonna tie the series up 1-1. So we are gonna go ahead and get into a game 3 here versus 2 great players. Very curious to see who's gonna be able to come out on top.
What I'm really curious about is what deck is left for Gvuardya. It's either Twisted Fate Swain or Trundle Ladros. Find out in a second here, Cephalopod. Let me get into the game. What is it going to be? Which deck is it? I thought it would connect a little faster. It's Twisted Fate Swain.
Twisted Fate. And we are going to see the Lux Aurelian Soul yet again. All right, so I'm pretty happy. We did get to see the elite deck win, which is really what I came here for in this matchup. So it's pretty good to see, not going to lie. So glad to see Cephalopod and Gvuardya here in game 3 in the losers bracket of this qualifier. So again, the loser of this game is going to go ahead and be knocked out of the tournament permanently, unfortunately. So we'll see who is able to advance and continue this lifeline for a chance to win a spot in the Invitational next week. Oh, hey,
so gonna be
don't blame this on me. Don't blame this on me.
I've seen you slide my audio levels.
I try to raise yours because I'm too loud. I'm just a loud dude, all right? So we do see the Spacey Sketcher pretty early from Cephalopod.
This is sort of an awkward Spacey Sketcher. I mean, there's no great discard, right? You could throw away one of the Luxes. That is a card that is a little bit hard for Gvuardya to kill, so there's a decent chance that the first Lux you play is actually going to stick, but yeah, I think you're fine just kind of taking the early damage that Gvuardya is putting out there. You know, you've got healing in the deck, you've got the guiding touches. Now we're going to see Spacey Sketcher just getting rid of that A-Soul, says that's going to come way too late. Equinox, not a bad pickup, will help a little bit later on with the Leviathan. And something that I've been kind of curious about that I haven't actually seen come up yet. If I Equinox a keg, do future kegs stack on top of the silenced keg and you can just never keg again?
Oh, wow, that's a really weird interaction now that you mentioned that. Wait, so you can never keg again, though? I don't think that's...
I don't know, that's what I'm asking. Because theoretically, the kegs will still stack on top of each other, but because the keg is silenced, it won't actually ever explode. I don't know if they even continue to stack if it's silenced.
Okay, I am going to go out on a limb and say that the future kegs will actually work. I think all new kegs will still work. I don't see why they would code it like that to make all future kegs just not work. Like, you're not silencing all that card and all named cards of its variety. I think you're just silencing.
Well, I mean, there's
no
other card that just hops.
No,
like,
yeah.
Spiderlings don't all jump into the big spider pile.
No, I know. So it's definitely a weird interaction. So hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully we get to see that. That would be interesting to see how that works.
Yeah, it's one that I've been trying to see, but anytime I think about throwing an Equinox onto a keg, I'm like, what if they just warning shot me?
Oh, the other thing too is maybe you get so somebody said you get a 0/1 keg and you cast a new one. So it might actually then start to take up 2 spots. So you have a 0/1 that can now block because it's silenced, and then you have multiple kegs be casted in a separate spot.
I don't think we're going to get to see it. I think this Equinox is going to function more as sort of something to let us activate our Behold Celestial cards like Supernova and Cosmic Inspiration, and then just eventually get played on a Leviathan. Because Leviathan is a lot less threatening when he's not, he's just sitting there as a 5/8. It's still a pretty big wall, but you have tools to get over that in a deck like this. We constantly praise Lux Swain for having the good removal that you need against a deck like this in order to take out 8 health units. Concerted Strike does so much work in a matchup like this.
And Twisted Fate going to come down from Gvuardya. Going to get the blue card, trying to dig for some more options here. So Gvuardya, Twisted Fate Swearing. All right, pretty standard build. It's looking like we do have the 2 salvage in here. We have 1 Noxie and Guillotine being run, and 2 Riptide. Also throwing a Jack the Winner in here as well. Wow. Okay.
I don't hate going for this because if you hit Cosmic Inspiration, you basically just win the game, right?
Said nobody ever. Like, why? I feel like we've said that exact statement like at least 20 times in this tournament. Oh, man. So is that just what we do now? We just play decks that invoke Celestials so we can just get Cosmic Inspiration? Like, that's the only win con we ever need?
I mean, I don't hate the idea of just kind of... There's only, 8 options that you could get? So you're looking for like a 1 out of 8 chance, and you have 3 chances to hit it? That's not terrible. And it's even better than that because it's 1 out of 8, then 1 out of 7, then 1 out of 6, so...
Oh, boy. Well...
But now, the Radiant Guardian top deck really going to help him stick around in this one. Radiant Guardian is difficult for a deck like Gvuardya's to deal with. Because you have so many 2-attack units, if you run a unit into the Radiant Guardian, you're only dealing 1 damage to it. And that means Ravenous Flock still doesn't kill it.
Yeah, that tough. I mean, every single time this card comes out, that tough is so relevant, especially in this matchup, like you mentioned, with all those 2-attack units. So we'll see if Gvuardya's able to get some sort of other damage out of this Radiant Guardian to set it up for something like a Ravenous Flock. We could see like a Noxian Fervor that will deal the 2 damage and then a Flock, and that's a lot of resources committed just to remove 1 unit. But if you're trying to be aggressive, like Gvuardya, I imagine, is going to try to do, he's got to get rid of it. Can't let this Radiant Guardian sit around for too long.
Cephalopod has actually decided that, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and hang on to this Radiant Guardian. I'm not going to play it naked to try and block your Swain. And I think this means that Gvuardya just attacks with the Swain.
Yeah.
Maybe Gvuardya holds it back because he's worried about a Pale Cascade into the Radiant Guardian, but I don't think you ever attack with your full board. I think that even if you are pushing, 9 damage, your opponent getting a Radiant Guardian is not worth it. And it looks like he's going to respect the Pale Cascade and say, I don't want you buffing that up into the range, blocking my Swain, and then getting the Radiant down.
Wow, okay. Wow, really playing around Radiant Guardian. And I feel like we see this so often where people, this whole game just ends up being dictated by whether or not Radiant Guardian can hit the board. And yeah, I think you nailed it there. Even not attacking with the Swain just to play around the Pale Cascade is absolutely bonkers. So really valuing that Radiant Guardian. We'll see if it ever hits the field, or at least anytime soon for that matter.
And this is why the ideal deck is a Demacia Targon deck, because then I attack with my dinky little 1/1, and it's like, okay, do you want to give me Radiant Guardian, or do you want to give me a tick towards my Gangplank level? What are we doing here, bud? You just gotta stare at him infinitely.
No matter what decision you make, I win. So I have control over this game. You do not.
But he does get a Lux down, and now at least 1 has a Swain blocker, 2 has a Concerted Strike in hand. It's going to be a little awkward. Would like to level the Lux before the Concerted Strike comes out, just so that he does hit the 6 health breakpoints of the Swain and the Jack the Winner. And so far, I mean, Gvuardya's board is getting wide, and that's the problem that Cephalopod had floating turn 5. I think even if you just played the naked Radiant Guardian, I mean, it is a little bit awkward. Your opponent can do some things to get around it, but I mean, even to make it rain into a Ravenous Flock actually would have been devastating there. You would have taken a lot of damage. So yeah, probably good on him to hold it back now that I kind of think about the answers that Gvuardya could have had, but this is a lot of mind games going on. Just a lot of respect on the side of both players.
Well, we'll see if the round ends up getting ended by Cephalopod here. We finally have the Lux hitting the board as well. And again, not utilizing barrier as we pretty typically see now. So, and yeah, I saw this in chat. Yeah, so Jack the Winner is in this deck, and I don't think we haven't necessarily seen it in every TF Swain iteration, but we have seen it start to pop up. And overall, I just like Jack the Winner as a card, right? Like it's a 5/6 body for a 5 cost on top of the extra burn type damage that it does.
I mean, that's why I wanted, to talk about Twisted Fate's place in the deck, right? I wanted to see if there was maybe a Gangplank or something, solely because it's a beefy 5/5 body. When we see TF Swain falter, it's usually because the mid game is so weak, and something like Jack the Winner, regardless of how often we're getting off the effect, just having that 5/6 is actually pretty difficult for a lot of decks to deal with. It's not something you can just pick off with a Lux Laser or even a Radiant Guardian, and just having that meat stick around does mean that I get a little bit more value out of things like my Noxian Fervor. I have more units that can survive that. I even like throwing out the Sleep with the Fishies onto things like these Spiderlings and these kegs that I get, and that ticks towards my Swain evolution. And also, I mean, that represents a Swain stun.
Hold on. My mind's going to be blown if that's actually the name of the card. Is it Sleep with
the Fish?
Is it Sleep with the Fishies?
Oh, I would love it if it is.
You definitely...
I'm going to check right now.
You definitely said Sleep with the Fishies. If it's Sleep with the Fishies and not Sleep with the Fishes, I'm going to be so happy. Because if not, they need to change the name to Sleep with the Fishies.
No, it's Sleep with the Fishes, but I feel like if I was a mobster in Bilgewater, I'd be like, you're going to be sleeping with the fishies tonight, bud. Say hello to Bubba Gump.
Oh, I really hope that's going to be in the next patch notes. Like, that's the important stuff here, okay? So we have lobster. Or sorry, Jesus. Now I almost said lobster. We have.
You just got.
I just got seafood on the bubblegum shrimp. And we have Cephalopod. Gonna pass back over to Gvuardya here, and so again with the. But when we start putting Gangplank and things like Jack the Winner in the deck, at what point does this deck just start becoming a burn deck? Like,
I don't think you put Gangplank in the deck. I do like Jack a lot more, especially because TF does still offer a lot of value in a lot of matchups. I mean, anytime that I can play a keg TF deck, I'm gonna feel good about it. We did see Len earlier with the 1 Gangplank in there, which I think I do like a little bit, but we generally don't see 1, 2, 3 champion lineups coming out often. I know that for a while, Karma Ezreal was down to like 2 Karma and 1 Vi, but it was never something that really took over the mainstream. I do think we're going to continue to see 3 TF, 3 Swain, but I do like putting 1 to 2 Jack in there just to get some extra meat on your bones. I feel like I've used that phrase to death this weekend, specifically when referring to the TF Swain, but this is a Cool Whip deck, and I need a little bit more meat in there. There's too much fluff, too much stuff that isn't doing anything. When I'm up against War Mother's Control and I'm looking at my hand that has a House Spider in it, I feel like I'm not doing anything.
Cool Whip. Sorry, I had to say that. You said it, and I wanted to feel saying that. So we have
gotta get the mouth.
Yeah, we have the Ravenous Flock and the Death's Hand to kind of prioritize removing this Lux here, which I do think is the right decision. And now Gvuardya really has a threatening board with Cephalopod tapped out here. I think you just go all in for this attack, right? Yeah. And
that's a lethal attack.
That's a lethal attack, and this forces out the block on the side of the Swain to the Shield Bearer. And how much damage is still getting? 2, 5.
Going down to 5.
I can't do math. 2. Okay, we're at 5. How did you do that so fast? You have a calculator?
Because you hovered the eye.
Oh, okay. We need.
I feel like you got me with that one earlier, so
I can't wait till we have Spectator. So, all right, and now this is the feels bad man moment when your opponent still has a Radiant Guardian on the field, and now we see not only 2 Concerted Strike in a single combat, but, oh yeah, Star Shaping. So basically every heal that Cephalopod could have is in the deck. So I guess the question now is, can Gvuardya just put together a 20 attack turn so that the heal doesn't matter?
I mean, if Gvuardya has... Noxian Fervor to dodge Radiant Guardian is something we've seen a lot in the past. Mm-hmm. If we block with Jack the Winner, I'm going to open up with Pale Cascade. Okay, blocking with the Spiderling. This is pretty non-threatening for Cephalopod. Gvuardya really needs... I think you take that block every time.
Wow.
I think you just say thank you for the 5 HP. I guess you don't have Noxian Fervor. We're back in this game.
Wow, okay. And now Cephalopod going to have the option to just go ahead and end the round here. We'll see what he decides to do. I feel like you kind of want to heal up a little bit more just in case, because you're not going to, let's see, you're going to have 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, you actually could play, if you bank 3 spell mana, 2 Concerted Strike in a single combat to really be safe next turn. There is also the option to go ahead and get this Lux down so you can start generating some final sparks and actually deal with the board on the side of Gvuardya. But is there any way Gvuardya with 9 mana, if Cephalopod plays this Lux, can actually deal with Lux?
Leviathan.
Leviathan?
So Leviathan would stun the Radiant Guardian next turn. So the Swain is a 10 out of 12. So the first 2 shots of Leviathan would level the Swain, and the third one would stun the Radiant Guardian. And you don't have double concerted single combat mana. I like either Lux or I like concerted onto the Swain. I think I like using at least one of the concerted strikes now.
Yep. Oh, man. He's really thinking about that Lux, too. I got to agree. I feel like playing a concerted strike here seems like the better option because you are also banking the spell mana. And wow, just going to float 5 mana and go into turn 9 here with the 12 mana total. That's crazy. So we'll see what Gvuardya starts with. We get an open salvage.
Oh, is this a TF level?
Oh, wait. No, really?
Is that something that everyone in
Oh
this game
my
has overlooked?
God.
Is the Twisted Fate going to level here? That is
Wow.
not what you expect out of a deck with this much removal.
That's
But the
insane.
patience from Gvuardya is playing out, and now there's a whole new threat on the board, and his name is... I don't actually know Twisted Fate's first name.
Wait. Twisted Fate has it. It's twisted. it's
Well, I know, like, Graves' real name is Malcolm.
Really?
But
How
I
do you
don't
even know this?
It's in the cinematic.
Is it real? Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
Twisted Fate gets captured, and he says, Malcolm's not that stupid.
Oh, that's actually...
But I don't think he ever says Twisted Fate's name.
That's actually one of the... that's one of my favorite cinematics, actually.
It's Jim or John. Jimmy John Fate.
Oh, man.
This should just be a lethal attack out of Gvuardya, though.
Oh
But,
my
I mean, you
God.
do have 2 concerted
Yeah.
strikes and the single combat. That's probably enough, right? You want to line up the single combat first. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter too
No,
much, but yeah.
he's doing it. You want the damage to happen last onto the Radiant Guardian, just if, you know, your opponent does have anything to counter this. Wow, that's crazy. And we'll see if this is lethal for Gvuardya. You know, this... You know, I feel like this happens, and not to beat a dead horse here with Spectator, but if we had a Spectator, we wouldn't miss something like that. Like, I feel like the level ups are one of the hardest things to track. You know, you can kind of guess by how the arrows are lit up.
I feel like part of it is just it feels like one of those things that you kind of autopilot on.
Yeah.
Where in this matchup, in your mind, Twisted Fate never levels.
Yeah.
That's not something that happens. He's going to die before that happens. But
Yeah.
I mean, if you forget to kill him, like it seems like Cephalopod
You
did.
forget to kill him? Like, Twisted Fate's just chilling. He's not hurting anybody. Just let him hang
I mean, we
around.
always talk about how when your opponent gets to like 4 out of 8 on the Twisted Fate, that's when you need to start worrying.
Yeah.
And on that last turn, Twisted Fate was already at 5.
Yeah, wow. And also getting the red card out here, which is, I think, is this just over the top damage so that the lifesteal won't matter. Also going to get the star shaping out if that's the case. A concerted strike would also do it, but it would actually save a little bit more health because he'd be able to kill something else. So I think Cephalopod actually lives here, right?
He should. I mean, it's a matter of do you want to use the concerted strike or the star shaping? Personally, I like using the star shaping more. You're not really presenting lethal on the next turn no matter what you get, but it looks like we're just going for the kill on... Oh, because the Swain is the one that's using the... Okay, I see what's happening here. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, no, because it's a Radiant Guardian. Oh, my gosh. So if this was anything but a Radiant Guardian, then the Twisted Fate's red card would level the Swain, and it would survive the Noxian Fervor, so you would still get the lifesteal from the Radiant Guardian off of the Concerted Strike. But because it's at 10 out of 12 and it doesn't actually deal damage, it's going to be 1 shy of leveling, and that means Cephalopod feels compelled to use the second Concerted Strike.
Wow. That feels really bad. Now, I can't imagine... no, he's only... Is Gvuardya playing multiple Noxian Fervor? Yeah, he's playing 3.
Yeah, everyone's playing 3.
So, I'm trying to... Does another Noxian Fervor do it for Gvuardya?
I mean, if the first one did it, I would imagine that the second one would.
Let's see this stack resolve here. A lot of spells gonna get axed. We're gonna see some damage float through. Wow. Okay, down to 6, and a hell of a turn between Cephalopod and Gvuardya here. This is turning out to be one heck of a game. And this just goes to show you the power of Radiant Guard. This one card is literally keeping Cephalopod in this game.
I mean, this is why we picked this game, right? You were going to do some winners bracket
Yeah.
match, see who's moving on to top. No.
Oh, man. Well, again, I mean, the loser of this, unfortunately, is going to be disqualified. They're not going to be able to advance here. So I said disqualified. They're not technically disqualified. They just are out of the tournament 100%. But the winner will be able to get another shot to move on to the 6 that qualify for the Invitational next week. And boy, is this a good one.
And with both Concerted Strike gone, I don't think that Cephalopod has any kind of answer for Leviathan at this point. And I think that's why he's hovering the Great Beyond, so that even if he, if Leviathan does come down, you have an answer in this single combat. Or maybe even just trying to soak up as much damage as possible if a Riptide Rex is going to be the follow-up. But, I mean, if we see another Twisted Fate out of Gvuardya here, I would have to imagine that's going to be pretty close to the game.
Yeah. And the Great Beyond. Let's see if somehow Cephalopod can scrounge something up with the... Oh, there's the Twisted Fate. The problem is, once Twisted Fate is leveled, he's did leveled. That's it. He's always going to be leveled. And that means you're going to have one heck of a problem when he comes down later in the game. And having that second Twisted Fate hit the board already is just got to be game over at this point, especially with Gvuardya sitting on 9 mana, sitting pretty.
This is, I mean, even if you just let this attack go, I feel like it doesn't really impact the outcome of the game. We talk all the time about, you see this big Celestial coming at you, and there's a bit of panic because now your life total is lower than its attack total, but there's no atrocity in this deck. This is Targon Demacia. This is a Shadow Owl card. Yeah, even the nonsense, but I do think that the Twisted Fate sticking around and being 1 mana shy of the single combat does mean that Cephalopod isn't going to be able to handle this. Gvuardya doesn't really get punished for not open attacking, and I think you can just string together enough cards before your combat phase to at least get to the gold card, probably even throw down another stun. You're probably out of Arachnoid Sentries, but if you can get Swain down, and this is going to be a big draw turn with the salvage into the blue card. What comes next? What's the other spell on the stack? Is it Make It Rain? It is, and that means that, 2 damage gets pushed at Cephalopod, and that's not nothing.
Wow, this is this Twisted Fate level. I can't believe this went right under our nose, and this essentially won the game for Gvuardya here. Twisted Fate leveled up is absolutely nuts, and we see the Make It Rain come out, pop in the Spell Shield as well. We'll take the 9 damage to Gvuardya, but I don't know how Cephalopod lives through this next attack. We are probably going to see some more... Okay, never mind. I was going to see some more Radiant Guardian shenanigans, but this will put an end, finally, to this Radiant Guardian.
Yeah, it's a tough card to kill. It's been around for a while, and it's kept Cephalopod in this game realistically a lot longer than he had any business being in here, but I don't see a way... Oh, the second single combat is still not a way out of it for Cephalopod. He can kill 2 units and block 1, and then the Star Shaping theoretically keeps him alive if Gvuardya goes for an open attack, but like I said, I don't think Gvuardya's super inclined to do that, and we're going to see the Swain come down, and that should just seal it up here for Gvuardya. Shit just works. Favorite to win the tournament should be moving on over Cephalopod here in the loser's bracket.
Yes.
Any second card that he plays will stun the Great Beyond with the TF red card, assuming the Swain doesn't die in response.
Let's go, man. Gvuardya. I'm just more so happy that I did not caster curse him into the ground. So very, very happy to see that. Unfortunately, we did both have... I wouldn't say have our money on, but we did also want Cephalopod to do well in this tournament as well, and we did think that he would make it pretty far here, but unfortunately looking to be eliminated from Gvuardya. And listen, you got a hard matchup here having to go up against Gvuardya in the loser's bracket. That's not something you could really predict, and he did his best to try to get a victory here, and Gvuardya just really playing this match incredibly well here with this level Twisted Fate.
So everybody has moved on to the next round except for these players, actually. Which means that after this game ends, I'll get into it with you about who we do have that is playing for their spot in the qualifier at this very moment. But, look at this. Hush doesn't do anything here. Hush is a bad card. It's fine. It doesn't need a nerf because look at this specific situation where Hush doesn't do anything. All right, we're chilling. This card's fine.
Hush is amazing. What are you talking about? I hate this card. I hate this card, and we're going to see multiple single combats. Not going to do, unfortunately.
Yeah, so you go for the Star Shaping, and that does mean that you would live at 1, but any card out of Gvuardya here is a red card from the TF, and that means that you will die.
Yeah, it was close. At this point, Cephalopod just playing to not
lives
lose.
At 1?
Yeah.
He went to -4, now he goes to... Well, he was going to be at -4.
I gotta say the eye.
Fine. Is that not
The
zero?
eye is funky. The eye, I don't know. The eye is a little bit funky, but yeah, and I do believe, and I don't know where the full list is, so if somebody wants to link it, go for it. I do believe Cephalopod was already invited anyways.
I couldn't remember, and then I was pretty sure that if you already had your invite, you had to stream all of your matches in order to make sure that there was no like concessions going on in order to like give someone else a chance, like just basically trying to like bracket fix. So I thought you had to stream all of your matches if you were playing and were already invited.
Possibly. Not.
And then Cephalopod didn't stream day one, so I assumed he was. I couldn't remember if he was invited or not, but it looks like not gonna be able to advance in this qualifier, regardless of whether or not he is invited. None of us know. We don't have the list of invites in front of us. I can actually look it up.
I think it's somewhere in the Discord, but congrats to Gvuardya. All right, so Gvuardya gonna go ahead and move on and take on 511 in the next losers bracket round. We'll see how far Gvuardya's able to go here in the losers bracket. But as always, everybody stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you. Peace out.